Hello, everyone. It is Thursday and it's July 25th. And I'm going to do another live because I want you guys to get it. I really do. I want to answer questions and I want you guys to get it. It's so imperative that you understand what's going on these days. I want to make sure that you can hear me. Shalom, sister. Um, Today, I want to talk a little bit about some of the basics. So, some of the basics that we need. We need food and water first, water, then food. And then we need shelter and, let's say, clothing and heat, light, and those things like that. So, when it comes down to shelter and housing, that's one of the ways that they want to mess us up. So, with the economy changing, we've talked about jobs. Yesterday, we talked about California enacting a $20 minimum wage and a lot of jobs being lost, people getting less hours, and some companies and specifically restaurants literally closing their doors because they could not sustain a $20 an hour minimum wage, or they didn't want to. Some people yesterday said that they could do it if they wanted to. Some of them can, but they don't want to do that. We want to make sure that whatever we do for ourselves and our family is going to be something that's sustainable. Housing. Let's talk about housing. I was reading today, and I talk to people just about every day, and the housing market here in Atlanta is kind of still booming, but the housing market in a lot of different places is really bad. So I'm going to read a little bit of an article that I found. It says, this is not the one. We'll get the other one. US faces negative equity time bomb. Percentage of mortgages considered seriously underwater rises. And, some of the states that are affected, if you live in these states, then if regardless of whether you have a home or not, the economy is going to be seriously affected as these houses go into foreclosure. So we're seeing almost a repeat of what happened in 2008, except for this time it's going to not only involve the homes, but it's also going to involve the commercial real estate. So we'll talk about the homes first. So we've got, it says a number of American homeowners, the number of American homeowners falling into negative equity rose in the first quarter of the year as soaring living costs and volatile property marketing strains households. So one of the reasons that people are falling behind on their mortgages is you got to eat. One of the things that's going on with mortgages is that people when you don't have the money to pay and then you're not taking care of your home, the property values go lower. So if you're around neighborhoods, let's say in the Atlanta area, there's certain areas of Decatur, like downtown Decatur, where you can't find anything under $600,000, which is pretty high for this area of the country. But then there's certain other areas where it's really a blight in the community. What's happening is the with the housing situation for middle class or people that don't have the means, they live in neighborhoods where the property values are going down. Now I don't know whether that's manipulated, and that's another question for another day. But the mortgages are underwater meaning that you owe more on the house than it's worth. For example, if you bought a house and you paid $340,000 for the house a year ago, and right now you owe 330,000. Let's say you did really good and you paid off $10,000 in principal, which in a year is usually not going to happen. You owe 330 now, but you just found out that your house is worth 250. That's really bad, and that's what's happening. I'm going to name some states. So in Kentucky, the percentage of seriously underwater mortgage holders rose to 8.3%. Louisiana is next, and Wyoming and Mississippi. Those are four of the states where people have houses and their mortgages are more than the houses are worth. And then on the flip side, we have the commercial real estate. This is a scary one because I talked about this one when we were having the housing crisis of 2008, because I noticed that they did their best to hold the commercial real estate together. So put a one in the chat if you have been driving around your neighborhood, wherever you live, and you see just rows and rows of empty buildings that say for lease. So it could be a whole complex, an office park, and out of five or six buildings, one or two of them may be occupied, and the rest of them, you see that sign consistently. Some of you have been seeing that sign for years, and it says for lease. Let me tell you something about that. Okay. Commercial real estate foreclosures are ramping up across the US as soaring interest rates and the slow return of workers to offices. These are two big things. People, like we talked about yesterday, people don't want to work. And if they're going to work, they want to work from home. When people got a taste of working from home, it was all over, y'all. I know of people that are in lawsuits against their companies because they don't want to go back in. They're going to, they're concerned, whether it be true or not, they're concerned about getting some kind of a disease or something like that. And they don't want to go back in. And the companies say, we got to go back in. Once you get a taste of working from home, believe me, you love your office being like 30 seconds away from your bed. You really will. You love it. So there were 625 commercial real estate foreclosures in March, up 6% on the prior month and 117% from the same time in 2023. Some areas are facing a bigger crisis than others, with 187 properties facing a foreclosure filing in California last month, which is the highest of any state. I'm not surprised. Although it was an 8% dip from the previous month, it was a huge 405% jump from last year. So in California, there has been a 405% jump in commercial foreclosures. Small and regional banks, listen to this part, are the biggest source of credit for the commercial real estate market. Regional and small banks, holding about 80% of the sector's outstanding debt. Follow me now. Around 929 billion with a B in commercial real estate loans is due to mature this year, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association, raising concerns this trouble spot could trigger a banking crisis. So let's go through that again. So the way commercial real estate loans don't work the same as our home loans. We get a home loan, let's say a 30-year mortgage. You sign the papers and then you're paying that mortgage until you pay it off or you decide to leave, which most people are renting really because very few people stay in a house for 30 years. However, with commercial real estate, they rarely do long commitments like that. So you might have a commercial property and let's say it's $1 million. So they're not going to give you a 30-year mortgage on that. They're going to give you a 5-year mortgage at a certain percentage. And at the end of that 5 years, you are supposed to pay it off or refinance it. It's called a balloon note. So at the end of year 5, you've already, in the months ahead of that end of the year, you've already started preparing your paperwork to renew it. So that company has a chance to increase the interest rate if things have changed. That's what they're saying. They're saying $929 billion worth of these balloon notes are coming due this year. Couple that with the fact that most small and regional banks are the ones, 80% of the small or regional banks are the ones that are holding these commercial loan mortgages. That's a recipe for disaster. So we're already into July, and I was listening a little bit to Lynette Zhang. Remember, she was one of the people that I recommended that you go out and subscribe to her YouTube channel because she's got the backing, she's got the credibility and the stats to be able to go through these numbers in the way, and she does it in a way that really helps, even though she She presses gold, and I think she works with a certain gold company. It's okay. I have my own gold company that I work with, but her information is spot on. So here we go. We've got these commercial loans all over the country, starting out with California and going down, that the balloon note is coming due this year. And if they cannot refinance it, if they don't have the income coming in, or they can't find anybody to refinance them, then those buildings are going to go into foreclosure. But the other thing that's going to happen is those particular banks are going to have a hard time staying open, because they were expecting that money to come in, or they were expecting these banks to, I mean, these mortgages to be refinanced, so they can continue to get that money in. So it's a concern, guys. It's a concern. If you have a mortgage, just, I don't give advice, but I'll tell you what I do. I just pay the mortgage, and then take the any extra money that I get. I used to pay extra on the mortgage. I used to. I don't pay extra on the mortgage anymore, because I don't they're manipulating the real estate so much. I go ahead and do other things with the money that are, I'll just tell you, I buy silver, I buy gold, and then I'm more concerned with getting the properties in the house in Costa Rica paid for, because I see more of a problem happening here than there. So me having a house paid off here and still having mortgages there, when stuff happen, won't do me any good. So just consider it. If you don't have a mortgage, I wouldn't, if it were me, I wouldn't get a mortgage at this point. I wouldn't go try to buy a house. If you have a house and you want to sell it, the market in most places is really good, but I would never sell real estate except for to get other real estate. So selling a house to go and get the money so you can buy a car, or, you know, even start a business, unless you know, like we talked about yesterday, unless you know that you know that you know that you have contracts coming in for it. I wouldn't sell a house. I would keep the house. I think that I've seen where certain family members who were struggling ended up moving in with other relatives just to keep things going. For example, if one person has a house, or there are two people living in a house, and the children, and I've seen this one, a lot of times people don't want their children to come back, but sometimes it's beneficial for the children to come back and work and help pay the bills in the family, because number one, the rent the rent prices in Atlanta are astronomical. So you're paying like 1,300 to $1,800 for a one bedroom apartment, and you're struggling with that. Well, why not say, okay, can I come home and give you, let's say, 1,000, $1,200, and then I try to get my finances together with the rest. So that's key. And I think, we separated as families when we had an agricultural um, system. And then when the manufacturing came along, we started going to the cities and, breaking up the families. I remember when, I know of people where the name of their street was their last name, and everybody in the family lived on that same street. And that still exists somewhere. I know some people like that, two different sets of people, but it's kind of really in the rural area. But consider getting back together with some family members. And that's what people come over here from other countries. That's what they do. They build up their money. They don't, try to style and profile and have an apartment in Smyrna or have an apartment in Buckhead, and then go broke. What they do is they get together. I had an audit one time, guys, and there were 26 people living in one house. And this house was like a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath house, and with 26 people living in there. And you know, I didn't do anything about it. I could have alerted the county, because that's a lot of people, but they came over from another country and they worked it out. However they lived in there, they worked it out. And then, somebody was in there helping out. They built up their money, and then they went and got a house. And maybe a few of those moved out with that person. So it seems like we have such a hard time getting along and, doing stuff without fighting each other. I see situations like that all the time. I see family members just, biting each other. And these other people, we can't hate on them, because they sit down and they do things together. They have these companies together. They do these things together with their money. They trust each other to, give the money to one business so that that one can build up and give back. All these other things we need to start doing. But with this housing thing, consider if you're paying an astronomical amount of rent, or consider if your house is upside down, maybe, having someone come in, do some renovations. If you have, and this is one of the, I did a video on this a while ago about ways to make money with what you have. That's one of my main things that I love to do. Teach people how to use what they already have to make money. So it could be up here, but it also could be their asset. So for example, getting, fixing up part of your house and letting somebody rent it. I went to evaluate somebody's house for them, because they had extra space, and it was sort of like a basement, but it needed an additional entrance. So there was decisions need to be made where to put the entrance and how much it would cost and what would be better. But point being, renting that basement out, which theirs is much bigger than mine, could probably pay their mortgage, and then they take that money from their jobs and then start a business, buy gold, pay off debt. So I'm going to go in the chat now and see if there are any questions. Okay. I do offer one-on-one consults. On my website, sherrypeeljackson.com, under solutions, and then I think you go to coaching. I do 1 hour consults, 3 hour consults, 3 month, 6 month, and a year and beyond that, based on what you want. So if you just have a few questions, then we'll do an hour. If your questions are going to require me to do some research and give you a report, then that's going to be 3 hours. If you want me to hold your hand for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, I do that also. I love to do that because I like to produce results. And I do have clients that I have for a year that are starting businesses. So they need to know what to do, from figuring out what business is going to be good and make money, all the way up to how to structure it, all the way up to how to market it, you know, how to put it online. And for my premium clients, once they get their business up and running, then I'm going to interview them a couple of times on the YouTube channel. So yes, I do one-on-one. If you want to know any information about that, you can get in touch with me at connect@sherrypeeljackson.com. The foundation of the laws of God is going out of the communities. Going out of the communities. That's why God's people can't get along. We don't practice simple stuff like treating other people like we want to be treated. I found a wallet. I was in DC one time in a conference, and I went to the Whole Foods, which was in walking distance of where I was staying. And you know how you're on the outside of the store and you pull a wallet. I mean, I'm sorry, you pull a grocery cart. Well, the grocery cart that I had a wallet in it. So what did I do with the wallet? I looked in the wallet. I saw that there was an ID, and I took it to I guess, the service area inside of the Whole Foods, and I said, I just pulled this cart, and there was a wallet in it, and that person's probably going to come back. Before I even got down the second aisle, a man was running after me, telling me thank you for turning his wallet in, because he had come immediately back to the store. Some people don't do that. I set my purse on something in like a furniture store, and it turned over, guys. And I had too much stuff in the first place. But people were helping me pick stuff up, and I was putting the stuff back in there, and I didn't realize until I got home that my wallet wasn't there. I went back to the store. The people said, "Oh no, we didn't see a wallet." All of a sudden, all my my cards started getting hit. Somebody took the wallet. They may have even kicked it up under something, so I couldn't see it. And so we just do each other wrong. So when we start doing each other right, things are going to get better. If you have some problems with your family members, please go and work that out. I've had some problems with my family members before, and we try to hash it out. We try to hash it out. One time it took about 8 months, but the person came back and said, you were right. And I wasn't trying to be right, but we hashed it out and now, we're back on track. So, next one, I work in building materials. I now see guys counting pocket change to buy lumber. Oh my gosh, that hurts me. These are people who are working. Who that hurts. The people, they're working, but they're trying to pay for lumber with pocket change, either to do a job that'll get them some extra money on the side, or maybe even fix up where they live. And this is a system, you guys. This is a system that was put together to make sure that we fail. So when people are, doing this racial stuff, and I know there are racial problems and all that stuff like that, it's like I see people from all over the spectrum in trouble. While during the 2020 and 2021 situation, there were a handful of people that became multi millionaires and billionaires and multi billionaires, while a lot of people on the other end lost their jobs for good, especially the people in the service jobs, because nothing was open. There was nothing put out there to help these people. Now, there was a $1,200 stimulus. What is $1,200 going to do when your rent is 1,500? And I don't know how many of you know this, but while people, everyday people, were getting $1,200 stimulus checks, businesses that were thriving were getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. The president's son's business got hundreds of thousands of dollars and you got 1,200. So this is a system. Be aware that it's a system. Be aware that it's against you so that you can know what to do. We spend too much time fighting each other. We spend too much time talking about what this person did and that. And yeah, these things happened. They happened. But right now we need to be focused on, I call it, they think we're sheeple, and they're trying to put us in this sheeple corral, and it's a corral, and they're building these, the fence around us and keeping us distracted, and we're paying attention to what each other are doing to each other and stuff, and we're not seeing that they're building this corral around us, just like that Klaus Schwab says, you will own nothing and be happy. I'm a single first-time mom who has to start over. We have 24 hours in a day, and I know it's hard. And I got a word from somebody, a minister, not too long ago, and well, she was saying sometimes you got to sleep on the battlefield, and that got me, because I do so much, and it's like, when am I going to get a rest? When am I going to get a break? And it's like, nope. Sometimes you got to sleep on the battlefield. What I'm saying to you, single first time mother, is make a schedule that make sure that you get some sleep, but it might not be as much sleep as you're used to, and it might not be as much sleep as you want. But you got to do something outside of a job to keep your family going right now. It's just not enough. It's not enough to just have a job. Most people. And the ones who have jobs, listen, the biggest sector that are losing their jobs to layoff is the tech people and the people that are making six figures in consulting and financial analysts and all those people. They're losing jobs left and right because the companies are tightening their belts. So just because somebody has a six-figure job doesn't mean that they're going to keep that job. I have clients that have six-figure jobs, but they want to also start a business because they have the foresight to understand that they need other income coming in just in case those jobs disappear. Where do I see the US economy by 2028? Do I see the US existing by 2028 is what you really need to be asking me. Um, the plan that they have for us, Agenda 21 and all this other stuff that they have, if we don't do something to combat it, then people are going to be in a form of socialism that has been in a couple of movies. Like when I did America, Freedom, and Fascism with Aaron Russo, at the end of that movie, he had a kind of sarcastic scenario about somebody that was on the phone trying to buy pizza from a pizza shop, and they told them that they couldn't because they see that they're in their last checkup they were overweight and they couldn't have any pizza or those kind of things. And we laugh and joke about that, but these things are going on in different places. I saw a short video in China where if you have a bad credit score, in other words, if you're doing things, it's a social credit score, not your financial credit score. If you're if you've been caught saying bad things about the government, or if you're, taking off too much time at work, then there's certain things that you don't get. So they have to go to the public restroom, then they have to get toilet paper, and you have to put your ID up to, literally, I'm not joking, y'all. Put your ID up on this thing and it scans it, and then you get toilet paper so you can go in the public restroom. Well, evidently this young man didn't do what he was supposed to do, and his social credit score was low, and he got about this much toilet paper. This is not funny. It might have been laughable to some people, but it's not laughable to me, and it wasn't a joke. So the things that are happening globally are planned. Ooh, this is something that I'm going to kind of have y'all read between the lines. There are certain countries that they have more say so and more freedom than other countries. And the difference between the countries that are more draconian and they have all these rules that people have to follow is the people in these countries. There's several of them: China, Australia, all those that the World Economic Forum has gotten their hands onto. Another thing about them is they don't have the right to protect themselves. If you understand what I mean, they don't have that right. They don't have the mechanisms in place. They don't have the puppies to protect themselves. So that's why over here, every time somebody has some kind of a mass situation, they want to blame it on the protection without looking at the mental state of the people and what kind of drugs they've been put on and those kinds of things. So I will always fight for the right to protect myself and my family. I'm pretty good with my puppies. So yeah, I don't I don't see it being anything good unless we make the change. The person in the mirror needs to make some changes. My contribution is to educate people on what they can do to make some changes. You can't do much if you're tired all the time and you're working, and that's the plan, to keep you working all day every day, not having any money, not getting anywhere. That's the plan. And as long as that's going on, people won't have the ability to, think forward and create things for themselves. We are creators. We were made to be able to create things. I've created things, you created things. We think like that. So, but when you're suppressed and depressed, you don't have time to create these lovely things. So let's work on making sure that in 2028 we're not where Klaus Schwab, and I think his name is Yuval Harari, the one that called us useless eaters. Let's make sure that we're not where they want us in 2028. Do you have knowledge on the private side, and are you a CPA? So I'll answer the second question first. I used to be a CPA when all this stuff happened, when I started talking about the IRS, and I had that case and was strung up. I gave up my CPA license. It wasn't taken. I gave up the CPA license. And the CPA is another one of those licenses that does things. So for example, they for the banks, they let them value the houses on their books a certain way, and then for you, yours goes underwater. So it's all a manipulation. And on the private side, I understand what you're saying, and I have knowledge of it. I have studied it a little bit, but I stopped studying it when I realized that they ignore the law. They ignore the private. I've had people that were all in the private side with their I's dotted and their T's crossed, and they still got dragged out of their houses and locked up because these people can ignore these things, and who's to stop them? Because all of them are working together. It's like if you're playing a basketball team and your team is really good, the other team, their uncle is the referee, and then their father is the coach, and they get to dribble all up in the stands around you. and they don't get filed. That's what's happening here. So the private side, from the people that I've talked to and dealt with, it in the long run it hasn't helped them because these other people ignore what's really true and what's in the law. I've been saving for a house in California. Where should I keep my money? Doris, do you really have to have the house in California? Um, Keeping money in a bank is not good right now. Keeping money is not good right now. It's just money. The fiat currency is worth, and I have a chart. I wish I could show you. My people just got back in town. I heard from them today. They won't be able to help me till this weekend, but the dollar is worth, in 1921 or so, the dollar was worth a dollar. Now it's worth 1.5 cents. A couple of years ago, it was worth 3 cents. So keeping money in dollars, what I talked about before, remember I talked about cash accumulation versus cash flow. Accumulating cash is not doing you any good if it's not working for you. Have your money working for you. That's what wealthy people do. They have their money work for them instead of them working for money. So if you have, money to do something that's going to bring you cash flow, then put that to work and take that cash flow and it'll build up some more. The difference between the rich people, which are getting richer, and the poor people are getting poor is the rich people earn interest, compound interest, and the poor people pay compound interest. Avoid negative people like the plague. That is, yeah. My dad calls them energy vampires. Avoid them because they always want to talk bad about what you're trying to do. Oh, I'm gonna start a business. Oh, you don't need to be doing that. You don't have time for that. Forget that. Forget that. They want you to stay in your circumstances. Circumstances is in the Latin is circle. You're standing in a self-imposed circle looking out at what other people are doing. Get out of the circumstances. We don't want to be in a self-imposed circle. We want to bust out and do the things that we need to do to move forward and thrive and escape the rat race. Good evening, everyone from California. Got a couple of people in here from California. Ah, okay. Yeah, so and California is a very interesting. It's always been interesting, but it's more interesting now that they have these laws and rules. And if you're settled there, just try to make the best of it. There are ways that you can start a business in a different state. If you're going to start a business, if it's going to be a sole proprietorship, you can't get around it. But California is rough, and the California Franchise Tax Board is the roughest state tax board in the country. All started in 1930. Failure was baked into the cake. The Creature from Jekyll Island is another book that I like. Ed Griffin wrote it, and he talked about how the banksters got together and went to Jekyll Island, Georgia, and decided that they wanted a national bank, and they called it the Federal Reserve. There's nothing federal about it, and there's no reserve. And then right after that, then in 1913, on I think it was Christmas Eve, the ones who were in cahoots together didn't go home for the Christmas holiday. They decided to bring in the income tax. So yeah, that's what happened. The Creature from Jekyll Island tells you that. And there was another book. If I think of it, then I'll let you know what it was. But stimulus was designed to create massive inflation. 70% of the money in circulation was created over the last 4 years. Our debt is at about $34 trillion. The U.S. debt. It's $34 trillion. You all go out there later on this evening and Google the debt clock, and you can see how much debt is accumulating and how fast the numbers are moving. You can't even keep up with it. And they consider you being responsible for that debt. You are a human resource. You are responsible for that debt, according to them. So yeah, the stimulus didn't stimulate anything. I looked at that check. A lot of people, some people, if you didn't file a tax return, you didn't get a check. And so some people were scrambling to do tax returns to get a $1,200 check. I'm like, yo, please. Hi, L'Oreal. I own a WOSB, applied for IRS compromise for back taxes, made less than $50,000 a year, but did get grants from my state. Continuing to apply for grants and working to obtain local contracts. So, grants to me are like for nonprofit organizations. So I'm not sure whether you're talking about nonprofit, but you do what you can do to make money. But when you make the money, please don't spend it on conspicuous consumption. There's no reason anybody should have a pair of gym shoes that cost over $50. Why are people walking around with these gym shoes or tennis shoes or whatever you call them that cost $500? Somebody showed me a pair of tennis shoes that was $500. I have an associate that does business in China a lot, and he says that it, you know, they pay those people, those shoes cost $5 to make, and then they get $500. That's astronomical return. And I think it has a lot to do sometimes with low self-esteem. People try to look better or feel better or buy things that make people feel better about them. But we got to stop doing that. We got to stop worrying about that. When I was a CPA making six figures back in the day, my children got their stuff from Payless. I didn't buy Nikes and stuff. I had the money. What I did with my money back then was travel, and I'm glad I did all that travel. I love to travel. I don't travel as much anymore because I spend most of my time in Costa Rica, but I've traveled a lot of different countries and got to know some things. But don't spend your money on things that aren't going to return. The time for that is over. The time for us dressing up in a certain brand name from head to toe, that time is over. Uh, I see so many I still go to the Goodwill. I see so many people in the Goodwill, not poor people. I see people driving up in decent cars, and we don't it's not about spending all that money on something. For example, our church has a cookout Saturday, and our church and along with some others. So our church is supposed to wear gold. And I have some nice gold blouses. I don't want to wear a nice gold blouse and get barbecue sauce on it. So what did I do, guys? I went to the Goodwill and got a gold blouse. I mean, things like some people would not step foot in the Goodwill, but be broke. Yeah. This is the Yes, and time doesn't wait for no one. It's getting to the point where you have to fix, improve things that aren't broken. So, in fixing things that are broken instead of throwing them away. I had this blouse, and it was a real nice blouse, and somehow I got a rip in it, and it was just a rip. And I had somebody fix it for me where you couldn't even see it instead of throwing it away, because I like the blouse. And I have clothes in here that I've had for a while, and I wear them, and I don't care if people say, "Oh, you look old fashioned," or most of the time they don't. But when they were saying I look old fashioned, I don't care. I'm covered up. I don't have none of my boom shakalaka hanging out, and I didn't spend $150 on this dress or this blouse, so I'm good. Because now there's that guy. What's his name? His name is Farrah Gray, and I heard him say it first. And maybe somebody else said it. Live like no one else, so that later you could live like no one else. I lived like no one else before, and now I'm living like no one else so that I can live like no one else on another level. Because as opposed to me going to get brand new this and brand new this, I always get used cars so that I can have enough money to pay for a house, in Costa Rica, and then build a community in Costa Rica. All this stuff is temporary anyway. But make sure your family's taken care of. I have children, I have grandchildren. My parents are still alive. I want to make sure that, I've done something to make sure that they're going to be okay. What's the best way to earn compound interest? Okay, so, ooh, becoming your own bank or becoming a banker in a certain way. There are people out there that have a lot of money or a little money that would rather not put it in the stock market. You remember I told you I don't do anything that can disappear in the blink of an eye. So they'll go find somebody to loan that money to at a higher interest rate than they would get if they put it in a bank. So you put your money in a bank, you're going to get 2%, maybe 3% interest. If you find a way to loan other people your money through contracts, you could probably get 20 to 30% on your money. So that's about all I can say on that subject. But yeah, compound interest is something that is attainable. You just have to know what to do and how to do it. And I'm gonna have to end at like 9. Wait a minute, hold on. I have a 10 o'clock appointment. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna finish the questions down here, and then I'm gonna have to go meet with some people in India on the line. So they're up, and I'm up at this late hour. They're just getting up. I'm looking at the questions. Griffin's book was heavily sourced from Mullen's work, The Secrets of the Federal Reserve. Yes. Over 200 trillion in unfunded liabilities. That says it all. It's not sustainable at all. It's not. Yeah, sticks, gym shoes, sneakers. That's the other word I was thinking of. Their prices are ridiculous, but you got people paying them because I guess they have low self-esteem and they want people to say, "Oh, those are bad." This it's not worth it. I love the Goodwill. You can find awesome stuff in there. You can for very low prices. I find new stuff with tags on it sometimes. This little shirt that I have on that I threw on is from the Goodwill. It's purple. I like purple. It's a Goodwill shirt. Nice summer shirt. Exactly. Use the money wisely. I don't own any designer. I go to Goodwill. I found a Casper suit. Ladies, you might know what Casper is. It had the pants, the jacket, and the skirt. And that Casper usually costs between $120 and $200. It was $15, y'all. Yeah. Okay. Beloved greetings. Hi, everybody. Um, frugal living. Yeah. What will happen if the great taking? What will happen though if the great taking? If you put your money into investment, it depends on the investments. Like I tell you, and this is where I have to end it. I invest in silver, gold, and real estate. If I have something that someone needs, but they don't have something that I need, I can give them gold because they know that if they take that gold from me in exchange for what I need, they're going to be able to get what they need from someone else by using that gold. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, guys, I've got to run to meet with my team in India. This is all new, and they're trying to help me learn the marketing part of it because I'm horrible at that. And I won't be on tomorrow because I have guests in town, and I will probably be back on Monday. And I think next week I'm going to start doing webinars. So stay tuned. I'll try to put the information about the webinars in the community tab because I think some of you may or may not be on my subscriber list. So if you're not on my subscriber list already, go to sherrypeeljackson.com, and there's something in there where you can subscribe to my subscriber list. I send notices out there, but I also try to put notices on Facebook, and I also try to put notices in here in the community tab on YouTube. So with that, I will talk to you guys probably on Monday. I'll post it in case, I'll post it ahead of time so you'll know whether I'm going to come on Monday. Have a great night and have a great weekend coming up, you guys.